Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I am so very pleased to have with me someone I've known for a few years, Ben Oxley. And Ben is a self advocate. He's been working in the advocacy field for also quite a number of years. He is the star of a movie that was released a couple of months ago called 6,000 Waiting. And Ben, I am so over the moon, happy to see you, hear that you're doing well, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm doing very well. I actually been doing a lot with advocacy, and I've since doing the film, I've actually had a passion for film myself. So I've actually been filming myself and talking to the director about different ways to film myself, and he's given me a lot of ideas, and it's really opened my eyes up to helping other advocates through film.
I love that. And so I also want to recognize that you have a YouTube channel called Crazy Wheels with a Z at the end.
Yes.
And in doing my research, I watched one of your interviews and it was actually really, really good. It's called Let's Be Real.
Yes.
And I love that. So can I ask you some questions about that interview? Because I thought it was so well done. And um, again, just there were no barriers in conversation, et cetera. And you were not afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations.
No, actually, I love the uncomfortable conversations. And through doing the film, I've done multiple interviews. I did one with Karen Graham. She used to be on Fox 5, but now she's on Silent News, and it's a network for the deaf. And after the interview, she was like, "Man, you hold the audience so well. How do you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I just um, interviewing comes very natural to me. It's something I've always wanted to do, even before advocacy. I wanted to do something in sports or basically music. I've actually envisioned myself interviewing some of my favorite bands and talking to them. And I've done local like shows. I've actually talked to bands at local shows and stuff. And a lot of them are like, "Man, you need to be an interviewer. You ask me tough questions." And it just comes natural. So it's really something that I really like to do. And I really enjoy it because all my questions come from off the top of my head. None of that video that I did was scripted. It was just us having a conversation. And even the guy I was interviewing was like, "Man, you asked me a tough question. I got to think about that." But all my questions come from the top of my head. And a lot of people say I'm natural, and I just love it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I say that I've found a niche. I found a niche through interviewing and videos. So why not get the word out about people through advocacy, through interviewing like politicians or anybody like that? I like interviewing people. I've done the head of DD. I've interviewed him before, and he's like, "Wow." And the crazy part about that was it was very interesting because we could not talk about anything about advocacy, and I've done that. So it was really cool because all my questions were not only off the top of my head, but it couldn't be anything about advocacy. And he's like, "Man, you asked me some tough questions. I really got to think about."
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's just tell folks that we met years ago
Yeah.
in the Partners in Policymaking program, which is an advocacy program for self-advocates and parents of children with developmental disabilities. So that's how we met. Is there anything before I start asking you some questions that you want folks to know about you? So you're a natural interviewer, you love interviewing, which we have that in common. I like to interview people too. So let me ask, is there anything you want to know, the audience to know about you? And then who in your wildest dreams would you love to interview? Because you talked about some music groups, et cetera. So who would you like to interview?
Well, that's an interesting question. I would love to interview the lead singer of Slipknot because actually 3 years ago, I actually jumped on stage with him illegally, and he actually looked at me like I was an idiot. Now, this is in the middle of a concert. Like, there's 20,000 people at this concert, and you see some guy in a wheelchair running across the stage with some guy carrying him. And I've always wanted to get his thoughts about what he thought about when that happened, because when it literally happened, he looked at me like I was an idiot, and I fell off the stage. So his security guard picked me up and threw me back in my wheelchair. I never saw him, but he was like, "Get that guy off my stage. What's going on?" But I guess I guess they put me on stage because they didn't realize I was in a wheelchair. And
Uh-huh.
so they thought I fell off the stage, I was gonna get back up and walk off. But no, that's not what happened. I didn't get up. So the security guard picked me up on and put me back in my wheelchair. Then he's like, "You want to go on stage?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I guess they figured, well, we better put this guy on stage before we get in a lawsuit or something like that. I don't know why they did, but they didn't. It was a big fiasco. So yes, I would love to
Yeah.
get his thoughts on what happened and how much of an idiot I actually was.
Well, I give you credit for being so bold. I mean, most people wouldn't even do that. So hey, that's, you're bold, you're out there. And anyone else you want to interview?
I would love to interview like Ed Hardy because I'm really big into tattoos and I have a lot of tattoos. And I would
Okay.
love to interview Ed Hardy and some of the old tattoo guys to see what it would be like back then if they tattooed someone with a disability and a wheelchair because back in them days they didn't have the ADA and they didn't have all these um, things they have for people with special needs or disabilities. So I'd be very interested in to see what their thoughts are as how times would change and how they would feel about it.
Those are all fantastic ideas. So I know you're going to do them. I have a strong feeling you will. So your conversation that you had, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you. I wrote down some notes. You talked about people with disabilities being misunderstood.
Yes,
So can you tell me, yeah, what does that mean to you?
well, I feel like they're misunderstood in a lot of ways when it comes to young people and dating. That's where I feel like we're most misunderstood because I can say something to a girl and she can say, you're funny or whatever. But a lot of times when people are misunderstood in the dating world as a young person, I can say something to some girl and then the next guy can say it to her, but she believes him because I think there's more of a stereotype because of the chair because they don't know how to they're gonna get around the chair and how they're gonna interact. And I think to me personally, I think a lot of them don't want to they think they're gonna be a caregiver or something to that type. And I really want to work on helping people get the word out about dating and how to interact with those issues as a young person. And that's where I think where we're misunderstood as a young person at my age. I'm 33, so I think we're misunderstood, and I think I always get put in the friend zone. So I think that's where my most of my passion and my work and where I feel like we're most misunderstood. Not only are we misunderstood as young people in a chair, but the parents are so and I know you saw a post or something where I said I'm gonna be raw and real. And
Yeah, yeah.
the reason why I call it raw and real is because parents may not like what I have to say because I think parents are scared of how they're gonna interact because their kids gonna interact because dating and all that's when it becomes a personal relationship when you have the romantic side of thing and conversations and a lot of parents don't want to have to educate their kid on things like that because maybe they've never been in a relationship but I feel like if they have young people to coach them and talk to them and have conversations then I think it will be a lot easier on the parents. So one thing that I want to work on is helping parents better understand young people, if that makes sense.
It
And how,
does. So tell me, because I'm a parent and I have two adult sons, and so I will not get offended. So, you can tell me. So what are we so we're not necessarily, and I won't generalize because some people I'm sure do and some people don't. We don't really know how to talk about our young folks with disabilities being in relationships, what that could
no,
look like.
no. So my idea for that is to have a round table of young people, like that are able-bodied and not able-bodied, and we have a round table so that when situations like that come up, not only are you educating young people with disabilities, but you're also educating younger people who don't have disabilities so they know how to interact. So if I have this round table, I can go to Joe. Joe doesn't have a disability. Joe's a guy like me. And maybe Joe can help me figure out a way to talk to the girl or figure out a way to look past the chair. Say, hey, say this. So that way it doesn't come back to the parent. The kid, the young adults can work together to figure it out.
I
So
love
that's
that. You got to do that too. You're just a plethora, all kinds of ideas are coming out. So this is awesome. You've got to
yeah.
do that. That's so needed because you're right. As mom, I can't really advise in that arena. It would be awkward and I'm not going to do it right. So
Yes.
having another peer
Yes.
advise, yeah, non a peer with a disability and then a neurotypical peer.
Yes, and then
Okay.
if we can figure out, I've done a lot of research because, and through talking to the director of the documentary and things like that, because he travels all over the world. I was even talking to somebody the other day, and they even pay for in other countries they pay for I don't know the right way to put it, romantic therapy.
I know what you're referring to, and I don't know what the right term is, but that's a good way of putting it.
Yes, they pay for that. The Medicaid waiver and the programs pay for that in their country. So much a year they pay for that. So if the individual wants that or has interaction with an individual they're dating, they will pay for that. So
Okay, so
I'm
that's
trying to,
way out of the box,
yes.
right? That's way out of the box.
So I'm
But
trying
you're
to
pushing the envelope. I get it.
yes, I'm trying to figure out a way to introduce this to America so that if an individual has that issue, not only are they going to be able to do that, but they're going to be able to talk to a professional about how to do that. And it doesn't even have to involve the parent. They can say, Mom, I need to go to this therapist. We need to have this conversation, just like you go to a counselor. You pay so much a month, and then that counselor closes the door, and that stays between you guys. And then if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, then that therapist can work it out. So that way it doesn't go with the parents. You can have that conversation between you and the person that's facilitating that. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've had caregivers, I've been in relationships, and the caregivers were cool with it because they understood we were young people. But not every caregiver and not every individual is going to be like that. And it's so hard to find it because when you get intimacy like that, it's so taboo in the disability community for
Yeah.
whatever reason in America. I don't know why. So that's why when I said I'm going to be raw and real, and any video, any interview I do, I'm raw, I'm real, and I tell you like it is. You know, I'm very respectful and I'm very watch what I say, but I tell you like it is. You know, I'm not.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, we appreciate that very much. So, and this is an uncomfortable conversation for most parents to have, right? Or to think
Yeah.
about.
And I
So,
think
yeah.
I think that's why most individuals haven't had the experience because the parents feel like they're gonna have to get more involved and they don't want to be involved. And I completely understand. I don't want my parents to be involved in it, but I want somebody who has, if I'm gonna be with an able-bodied girl, I want her to be able to understand that I know what's going on and we can work it out together. But I think because the parents haven't educated or haven't found the right way to educate, then the adult doesn't know how to do it that wants to be in the relationship. So therefore, it turns into doing inappropriate things at the wrong time, if that makes sense. And
It does.
I think that's why a lot of that happens is because the individual has hormones, they have all this going on, so they don't know how to react to it, and neither does the parent because they haven't found the right way to educate. And I think if we take some of those approaches from other countries, I think our individual and the disability population will be bounds ahead, and the parents can kind of take a step back and not worry about their individuals being in relationships. It'll be just
Right.
like anybody else.
So are there, besides that, which is, it sounds like that's a real big priority for you, are there other things that parents should or should not be doing if we have a child with a disability, an adult, let's just say an adult child with a disability?
Parents should not shelter their kids from conversations like with, let's say if you have a problem with a boss,
Mm-hmm.
parents like to step in, especially in high school. They like to step in and take control of the conversation and take control of the situation because they don't want their individual to get hurt or get told the wrong thing or maybe snap at them. But it's very important for the individual to stand up for themselves and to speak for themselves when they're in situations like that. I know I had situations with bosses and things like that where my mom and my dad are like, you know, they're very raw and real. If you got a problem, you need to handle it yourself. But not a lot of parents are able to do that because, and I call them, my mom used to call it a helicopter mom
Mm-hmm.
because she was like, she didn't want me to get hurt and she didn't want me to have to deal with it. And she didn't want to have to deal with the effects of what other people might say to me. But what she quickly realized is I need to be the one stepping up for myself and saying what I want and what I need and saying it how I want it. Because I'm my best advocate. Nobody else can advocate for me like I can. So I feel like parents need to step back and let the individual do what they can and let them figure out situations. And then if they need help, you go to your job coach, you go to your peer support, you go to your caregiver. Then if you can't figure it out from them, then you go to your mom. But I think the parents need to step back and let the individuals take control of their own life.
Yeah, and that's so hard, Ben. That is so hard.
And I think there needs to be education around that for parents, not just
Yeah. It's
not just
that letting go piece because as a mom, you're used to, and I think I don't think I would consider myself a helicopter. I don't know, but I'm sure I have been in the past. Um, it's hard to let go because they're an adult, but yet there's certain things that they're not quite ready to handle or need assistance or, so it's hard because that parent line for a typical person, they're off, they're, in getting a job, military, off to college or whatever. And it's a little bit different for us. So, I maybe I hang on to that mom title a little bit longer than I should, but, it's hard to let them launch. Let's put it that way. It's hard.
yeah, well, I can remember a story when I was in high school. It was my ninth grade year. And my teacher was very hard on me in eighth grade. She was like, "Man, you got to do this. You got to be organized." She was like, "Okay, this is your fault. This is why you're not organized. We got to get you ready for high school." So my first day of high school is a brand new school, brand new teacher, everything. I mean, she just now started this work. So she was a little new at this school.
Mhm.
She'd been teaching for years, but she's new at the school. So she was having a frustrating day, and I was like, "Where's my next class at?" She was like, "I don't know. You gotta find it." So any other parent would be like, "Why did you talk to my son that way? Or why did you act that way?" So she called my mom the next day or that morning and was like, "Look, I'm sorry I treated Ben that way. It was his first day of high school. I'm sorry I did that." She's like, "No, that's the best thing you could have done for him because at least he said, okay, I'll go find it." Because my middle school teacher had educated me and told me what I needed to do. So therefore, it wasn't a big deal to me. I found my
Mhm.
class, but a lot of parents, that's what I'm talking about. A lot of parents need to step back. And if something like that happens, they don't need to get mad about it. They don't need to get upset. They need to teach the individual, okay, that's why she did that. Now you go find it yourself because the more you can speak up for yourself, the better individual you'll make in the world and you'll be able to educate other people. The more you know about your disability, the more you'll be able to break barriers and educate the able-bodied community, and we can bridge that gap between able-bodied and disabled. So that's a big
So you didn't take it personally when that teacher told
no,
you?
no.
No,
Oh
you did
no.
not. Okay.
No, I just said, okay, I'll go find it. But she felt bad because it was my first day at high school. It was her first day in this school. She didn't know what was going on. And she knew she shouldn't have reacted that way, but it was the best thing she could have done for me. So from that day forward, I was able to find my own superior support. I was able to find my own people to help me out. I mean, I found my own supports. And then if I had troubles, then I would go to her and say, okay, I need help with this. Can I come to your room by such and such time? Or can we work it out? But I always handled my own stuff in high school, whether it be organizing my notebook. I knew where my books were. I knew where everything on my book bag was. I mean, she didn't have to do nothing. Even when I got assignments, she would say, okay, come back to my room at 3 o'clock and we'll get it done. But you got to tell me what to do. So I would tell her exactly what to do. And a lot of parents, I feel like if they stay a helicopter mom, it doesn't prepare them for those moments where you have to be an advocate. Advocating starts all the way when you're in high school, all the way up until you're adult. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had moments even when I was in partners. I was like, I was still young and crazy and just wanted to do whatever, wanted to party and chase women. But at the same time, when I got out in the real world, I realized, whoa, and I didn't really realize the impact I was making or I could make as an advocate until I really saw it. And the more I started doing, the more of an impact I started to make. I'm like, okay, I need to stop, not stop, but I need to really hone in and figure out what I want to do. So I was still going through that transition a little bit when you met me. Then when you met me, then when I came out, then it changed my whole world because I never will forget the conversation I had with Kathy Snow. She said, "Why aren't you in college?" I said, because I need to get a GED. She's like, well, why aren't you getting a GED? Why are you sitting here talking to me? She was like, you need to be an advocate for yourself. And that's a conversation. I can remember exactly where I was at, what I was doing. And that's a conversation that is stuck in my brain ever since it happened. So now I just remember that conversation. And that's why I'm pushing for advocates to speak up for themselves and wanting to teach parents that how important it is, because they may have a situation where somebody may ask them a question. And one thing I realized, mom is not going to be there forever. Mom and dad are not going to be there
Yeah.
forever. And no one will take care of you like your parents. Even with situations where my caregivers now, I have to communicate. Well, I don't like the way you do this. Let's do it this way. And now I can step them through every detail of my day. I can say, well, mama, I moved this way or I moved that way. You have to be an advocate all day, every day. And when I first got out of partners, that's when it really changed. And I got to think about what Kathy told me. I was like, yeah, she's right. And then I started getting more and more opportunities because, like you said, whenever you come out of this class, they're going to see you're in this and they're going to, well, you do that. So then the opportunities started coming. Then I started seeing the impact I was making. Then I got paid for certain stuff. And then I realized, okay, it's time for me to kind of tone down a little bit and kind of hold myself as an advocate. And I really saw the impact in the voice I could be. So now it's just like I'm always looking for any opportunity I can take, any way I can educate, any way I can help other individuals, whether it be training, whatever. I mean, I'm just down to do it, whatever, because I feel like we are the ones that make the most impact.
Yeah, yeah. So at what age did you say you kind of turned a corner and said, I got to get real serious about this now?
Probably about 25.
25. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. So tell me, how did you get to be so confident, Ben? So is that a Ben, or is that your mom and dad had a lot to do with that? Or how did you get all this confidence?
Just by doing it and by my parents not babying me per se and just saying, look, it's your life. You're the only one that can make it. We can help you, we can assist you, but you gotta make your own way and you gotta let people know what's up. You gotta be like, hey, I can do this.
Hmm.
And I'm not gonna lie, I do struggle. I have days where I get depressed and moments where I get
Yeah.
depressed. I'm trying to figure things out. But now I've realized, hey, if you feel that way, you gotta talk to somebody else, somebody know what's going on, because maybe they can help you navigate to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Good. Good. Because, not everyone is so confident. I'm talking about all people, people with disabilities, typical folks, everybody. Not everybody has that same level of confidence that you have. So tell me about the folks that are your caregivers. Do you hire them? It sounds like you're really involved in their training as well.
Well, I self-direct my
Okay.
Medicaid services, so yes, we hire them, and um me and my mom always sit down. Like she sits down with them, and I sit down with them, and we're always in the same room during the interview process. So what I do is before we do an interview, I tell her what I think of them and what she thinks of them, and then I write down. She writes down my concerns, and then she writes down her concerns, and then she kind of lays the job out, and then I tell them what I want and what I expect of them, and we kind of tag team the interview together.
That's awesome. I love that. So you collaborate
Yes,
with your mom on that. I
I'm
love that.
always collaborating about something.
Yeah. Yeah. So any other advice for families, for parents who are raising or who have adults with disabilities?
Let them be their self. Kind of
Okay.
let them navigate the ship and see where it goes, but
Hmm.
be hard on them and don't take no for answer. Just because they have a disability doesn't mean they can't be held accountable for their actions. And basically just tell them, hey, this is your life and you have to live it, and we will figure out how to assist you in whatever you want, but you have to be realistic about what you want and how you want to do it. Because anytime I do something, I'm very realistic and I think about every detail and how I'm going to do it. So basically, if a parent's having trouble with a kid or an individual
Mhm.
and they're just not getting out in the real world and they're trying to train a caregiver, for example, um, make the person watch you, make the individual watch you and say, okay, now what do I do in this situation? Make them step you through every detail of what you're going to do so that they know how to do it. So eventually, if you have an individual getting in the van or you're trying to load them in the car, you do it the first time, but then you may accidentally forget to do something and see if they pick up on it, or you ask them, how do I do this? Like if I'm getting you in the car, you tell me what I would do. And that's exactly what my caregivers have done in the past with me. She would get me in the car, she'd be like, all right, man, we're gonna go for a drive. You tell me how to get there. And if I make a wrong turn, it's gonna be on you because I'm not gonna always be with you. I'm not always gonna be there. And there's been times where my caregivers have let me leave my shoes. Like I went out the house with no shoes on. I've done all kinds of stuff, but it got me to the point where I had to think about what was going to be the next process so I could navigate the caregiver or the person that's not used to working with me.
Okay.
And so I could make this step to say, okay, this is what I don't like, this is what I like, because they don't know. They don't know how you like it, and you're the only one that can tell them. So let the individual be the own voice, and that's how you can do it little by little. Is making doing it for them at first, but then maybe forgetting a step or saying, okay, today I'm gonna see what you know and see where it goes from there. Take baby steps and let them take control of situations little by little, and I think it'll help a lot of parents instead of just saying, okay, you do it yourself. No,
Yeah.
you can work together and navigate them through it, but you got to step back and let them do it eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So this has been a great conversation, and I want you to hang on after we end because I want to talk to you off camera. But you are absolutely a rising star, Ben Oxley. I have no doubt you're going to do even more great things for the world. And just thank you so much for this conversation. It's a pleasure to know you. And so you all subscribe to Ben's YouTube channel, Crazy Wheels. And thank you so very much for having this conversation with me today.
No problem. It was awesome.